We have seen these wonderful county clerks, when the legislature passed a new way of voting, a paper ballot system. Many county clerks were not in favor of it. I was leery of it. I'm going to tell you, I voted no. But these men and women who conduct elections in our state, they have done a tremendous job of taking the policy that you create and implementing it and working through the procedural obstacles that we face. We at the Secretary of State's office stand ready to assist not only you, but them in implementing the procedure that is needed to assure the citizens of the state of New Mexico that their vote will count and count only once, and that the person who appears at their polling place on election day is the person they say they are. Let me just share one more thing. And people who are saying, we don't think we need voter ID. What is this trying to correct? What issue are we trying to correct here? Well, let me just share something with you that happened last week. I got a visit from the Department of Justice. They flew in from Washington to talk about the issues that of a violation of the federal law, the National Voter Registration Act, and you all are familiar with the NACOA, the National Change of Address program, whereby the U.S. Postal Service and the voter registration system and the Secretary of State are combined. The previous Secretary of State failed to perform a procedure in 2007 called the National Change of Address Confirmation Mailing. In my mind, that is a step toward the purge, which should have been conducted this year in March, which these people here have the authority under the statutory requirement to appoint a board of registration or purge board, as we know. I had to issue a press release 2 days ago saying there is no one to purge. The reason there is no one to purge in 2011 is because in 2007, that national change of address confirmation mailing did not occur. That process in the federal law was just not done, which means that we can not now, this year, conduct a purge to remove thousands of registered voters. What that means in all 33 counties is that we have an inflated, or some people say bloated, that is a good word, bloated voter files in all 33 counties. The fact that we have, and the number I'm looking at, and just to estimate, we don't even know what that number is. In 2009, the number of voters that were purged was a little more than 53,000. Currently, in the Secretary of State's office, in the system that we have now, we're looking at bringing, when we look at those people who are placed in active status, 79,000. So the fact that we have inflated voter rolls does provide a neutral and non-discriminatory, if you think about this, reason for supporting voter ID. We are going into the 2012 presidential election, of which, I'm going to tell you all in here, of which I'm really nervous about because it's a huge responsibility. But we will literally have, in all 33 counties, bloated voter rolls. We need to have voter ID implemented before going into 2012 elections in order to assure that every person who appears at that polling place is the person they say they are. Let me just tell you, as I worked this last 10, 12 months on this issue, and polling was done throughout the state, in every single poll that was done, regardless of party affiliation, racial ethnicity, the polls showed at least 80%. Nobody went lower than 80%. And I just want to share with you the one that I found the most interesting. The one poll that was given to me was a poll that was conducted in the South Valley of Albuquerque, where we had racial diversity, party affiliations, across all party lines. That poll was at least 80%. I traveled the state. I have people who said I'm declining the state, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican. We need voter ID in New Mexico. So I'm here standing before you today, not specifically on this amendment or specifically to work out the details of this bill. I do realize we have a lot of work here. But I'm here to suggest to you that you as policymakers, if you want your voting constituency to say, he believes that my vote, he understands that my vote wants to count, she does. So they are implementing policy. We have a Secretary of State and county clerks who can work together. I am dedicated to working with these county clerks who are the intricate part of making this work, to work with them on the procedures of how this can be done and done well in New Mexico. It's been done in a number of states. We're talking to those other states on best practices. This issue is critical to the people of the state of New Mexico. So I'm here today just to offer you our support. We stand ready to assist this committee in whatever way we can and to help you if you choose to do what the voters have asked us all to do. And I honestly believe that's why I'm standing here before you today, because that was the #1 issue in my campaign and the #1 issue in the minds of all New Mexicans. So thank you for your time and your attention, and as I said, we stand ready to help in any way we can. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent.
Now we will go
Excellent.
to those that, no, I've given you at least over 35 minutes. Now we are going to go to the people that are against this. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, let's go ahead. Let me get started on my right, because I've gone to my left. Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Daniel Abisoto. I'm the registered lobbyist for the New Mexico County Clerk's affiliate. I want to start off by telling you that the county clerks in the state of New Mexico have never taken a position on the issue of voter ID itself. There are some county clerks who are very concerned about the disenfranchisement that can lead to. There are other county clerks, I will tell you, who are very passionate wanting photo voter ID. However, when we looked at this bill, the county clerks in New Mexico were unanimous in opposing this particular bill. And I'd like to explain the reasons why, because it goes to some very detailed administrative reasons. And by the way, I am prepared to speak on both the amendment as well as the bill itself. First of all, this bill treats people who vote by mail differently than people who vote in person. The story that we heard about the lady who showed up to vote for her grandmother, if she would have mailed in an absentee ballot, she would have succeeded. And this bill does nothing to stop that. So we're treating people differently based upon how they choose to vote. And that is problematic. The second thing is, on page 2, we have on line 18, a requirement that the name conforms to the name on the person's voter registration. Now on line 6, they're amending it to say substantially conform, but on page 2, they leave it as conforms. I don't know what conforms means.
We can amend it.
Okay? I was talking to people before the hearing, and some of them were saying, well, it means an exact match. Other people said, well, it's a common sense approach. I don't know what it means. And what we're doing then is that we're having poll workers having to make that judgment call, and it all depends who your poll worker happens to be as to whether or not F.D. Hamilton gets to vote when the registration is Diane Hamilton. And that's problematic to have that kind of a nebulous standard. Second of all, with regard to an amendment, it requires that the document have the name and birth date, but it doesn't require that the birth date match. The woman who showed up to vote for grandmother, if she happened to have the same name as her grandmother, she legally would have been required to be able to vote, because there's no requirement to match on the birth date.